All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Dave. This is the Radical Independent. We've really got the best guest I have for this show back with us again, and I'm grateful that he keeps coming back, even though, again, he's a little under the weather. He's got a brand new book out there. It's called Disarmament. Actually, it's not brand new, but it's a fairly new book, Disarmament in the Time of Perestroika, Arms Control, and the End of the Soviet Union. Please welcome back Scott Ritter. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yourself?
Happy New Year to you and yours. And yeah, I'm doing all right. So I want to jump right into this. So I think the last video we did might have been maybe the most watched video. And you get a lot of comments on these videos. And sometimes I'm reluctant to read too many of them. I just have other things to do. But there's this classic Scott Ritter meme out there, and I wanted you to address it directly. It goes something like this. I'm paraphrasing the comments. You know, Scott Ritter, he did so much for our country, and I applaud his military service and his service as a weapons inspector. But, you know, it's clear that Scott Ritter has lost his way. And Scott Ritter is being somehow manipulated by Vladimir Putin to come up with all of these sort of anti-American, sentiments, because you're looking at things, objectively, and you're coming to your own conclusions based on the things that you know and the things that are happening on the ground over in Ukraine, and just based on our own lack of expertise in foreign policy. And you write a book about, diplomacy, negotiations, how we used to at least attempt to do things with countries that, we didn't always view in a positive light. So I wanted you to respond directly to this Putin puppet allegation. When they use the word puppet, it really irritates me, because that would kind of indicate, and I know they just throw the language around these days and nobody really thinks about what they're saying. Scott, what it reminds me of is somebody's got strings attached to you and they're pulling your arms and they're making you speak in a certain way, and they're putting thoughts into your brain. Maybe they've somehow mastered some sort of new artificial intelligence, which probably isn't actually new. Maybe they've got Elon Musk, got you wired to some sort of device that makes you speak in a way that makes you sound so apologetic with regards to the way Russia has conducted themselves in this special military operation, which I think is now escalated quite a bit, and you and I can talk about that. But can you just address this whole Putin puppet thing? Because I think the audience would appreciate a direct response to what I consider to be just a ridiculous assertion.
Well, just wait, 1 second. No, guys, if you're going to control me, do it better. Oh, there it is. Wait, Starlink, Vladimir Putin, download, file 16.3. I'd like to address the issue of being called Vladimir Putin's puppet. Look, come on, man. First of all, you guys are going to do this, do it better. Here, let me give you my good friend Sergey over at Zrada 22. Sergey at least has some creativity. I'm not just Putin's puppets. I'm Solovyov's sex wife. Okay? And I've been, I can't use this word, but I've been doing something to Shoigu and Gerasimov for 10 months now. Come on, at least that's creative. And it's got some humor in it. We can go down. This is like, that old mean tweets where people would read mean tweets out on a show. I'm Putin's girlfriend. Oh. Man, at least make me his mistress. Solovyov, what else am I now? It just goes on. Oh, I can't even say this on your program. But at least it's creative.
Right.
At least it's creative. It's entertaining. It's got some, risque sexual connotation. But Putin's puppet, do better. All right. First of all, understand this ain't my first go around being called names.
Yeah.
I went to war against Iraq, killed a lot of Iraqis, and then I spent a lot of time disarming them, getting in their faces. And then I had the gall to speak the truth about weapons of mass destruction. And I was called Saddam's shill. I was accused of being on Saddam's payroll. I mean, guys, get creative at least. You know, I've been called worse for speaking the truth. And if you're going to accuse me of being Putin's puppet, please at least respect the fact that, unlike you crass little cowardly bastards, if you're going to call me a name, give me your name. Okay? Don't hide behind a keyboard. Give me your name. We'll meet anywhere you want. You can call it to my face. I'm not threatening you. I just want to see your eyes when you say it. Okay? At least give me that courtesy that I can stare through your eyes and make an assessment of the man, because I would never do this to a woman. A woman can say whatever she wants. I don't. I respect her too much. I'm not going to do it. But you're a man. Stand before me as a man. Let me see you as a man, what your full capacity is as a man. Then call me what you want, not knowing how I'm going to respond, because you're a man. You don't care. You're man enough to make this accusation because clearly you've thought it through, because clearly you know what the F you're talking about, and clearly you don't. Unlike the people making the accusation, I actually put time and sweat equity in defending my country against the Soviet threat. I trained to kill Russians. Thank God I didn't have the opportunity to do it. But, it was there. I don't think puppets train to kill their puppet masters. It's not the standard resume entry. And then I worked to disarm them. I worked collaboratively with them in Iraq. But to be the puppet, they would have had to carve me. Putin isn't Geppetto, and I'm Pinocchio. And Putin didn't carve his little boy out of wood and lovingly raise him and all that stuff. I was carved by the son of a bitches that wanted to kill Putin. All right? I am the antithesis of a Russian puppet. But what I do have is a brain that functions and allows me to absorb information, assess information, and then accurately. And you want to know why I say accurately, David? Because I haven't been wrong on too much.
Yeah.
My track record of doing analysis goes way, 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 way back before half the little cowardly pieces of manure that are calling me names were even born, were even conceived in the minds of their parents on some cold winter night. I've been doing this a long time, and I've been doing it right. I challenged the Defense Intelligence Agency on Soviet missile production numbers. One guy, a lieutenant, taking on the entire establishment, being confronted by generals, being told to stand down because clearly I don't know what I was talking about, but clearly I did because I was right. I took on General Norman Schwarzkopf, scud kills. I was fired from my job. I was arrested. I was fired again, but I was proven right over and over again. Not just a little bit right, 100% right. And then the whole weapons of mass destruction thing in Iraq. I mean, I couldn't have been proven more right than that, and I couldn't have had more people against me. People that have bigger you-know-whats than the cowards behind the keyboard sending comments to your thing. All right? Yeah. I had Sandy Berger, the National Security Advisor, call me a known threat to the United States of America, an enemy of America for standing up and speaking truth. Nicholas Burns, the ambassador to NATO, chastised NATO for daring to bring me in, talk about Iraqi weapons, because I was a known enemy of the United States. Hell, I was charged with treason by my country. And I was charged by Mary Jo White, Southern District of New York, and she never loses a case, Mary Jo White. Back down. Why? Because she was wrong, I was right. Do you think I really give a flying you-know-what about the little curveballs that are sitting there saying that? And thanks for winding me up on a morning there, David. But, I try to have a sense of humor here. Guys, at least be creative, entertain me. I like Sergey at Z-Rod 22 because he at least makes me chuckle when he insults me. I mean, it's funny. It makes my morning. Hey, Sergey, if you're listening to this, keep it up, man, but get a little bit more creative, okay? It's getting old. The old Solovyov slut, Putin's wife. Yeah, that thing doesn't work. I'm beginning to think you have a little fetish here that I'm not too comfortable with. Call me something else. But keep calling me names if you want to. And all your guys out there, keep calling me names if you want to. I don't care. I mean, the only thing that gets me is if you think you're being a man. I don't want to come off as too chauvinistic.
Right.
I believe in equal rights for women, but I'm somebody who believes in chivalry. I will open doors for women. I will treat women right. Um, Men deserve to get the snot kicked out of them when they behave like anything other than a real man. A real man wouldn't do that. Okay, a real man would, before you call me Putin's puppet, might say, "Hey, David, next time you have Scott on,
Yeah.
ask him the following question and make it a well thought out question. A
Right.
question that says, why do you hold this thought? What is the thought process behind the analysis you provided on this given topic? Because, and here comes the important part, because I have experience in this, not me, but the person making the comment, and my experience leads me to believe the other. I mean, don't be one of these snipers, these long range snipers that doesn't know jack squat about anything, but decides they're going to take umbrage because an expert with a proven track record of performance decides to commit to a line of analysis. You can disagree with me. That's your prerogative. That's your right. But don't waste my time. Don't waste David's time. Don't waste anybody's time doing long distance sniping. Do your homework. And then once you've done your homework, and once you've come up with fact based reasons why you disagree, then send them to David. And David, if you receive something like that, please ask me the question and I'll answer it. Otherwise, what are we doing? What are we doing? This is stupid, but this is something that goes on. It's part and parcel. Now I'm going to say something. There's this organization out there called NAFO, the North American Fellas Organization, Fellas. And they're known for what they call shit posting. I apologize for using that language,
That's
but
fine.
it's an accurate representation of what they were saying.
Okay.
And all shit posting is if you get on Twitter and you say something like Russia, is going to win the war. They come in with, and their job is to flood you with nonsensical, stupid stuff. Like, for instance, you're Putin's puppet.
Yeah.
You're Shoigu's girlfriend. I mean,
Right.
all this kind of stuff. That's my way of telling your guy he's not original.
Yeah.
And so NAFO does this, and they do this with cute little Shiba Inu memes. This little dog, they dress it up as a little soldier, and they put a Ukrainian flag on it, and they do all this stuff. And they have people like Adam Kinzinger, who is proud to be a fella. He's a U.S. Well, he was. He ain't a congressman anymore. But he was a fella. But he's also a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force, which tells you something. Why would a lieutenant colonel command position be part of a shit posting organization? It tells you something about the quality of the guy. But that's what's going on here. This guy says, I lost my way. Now we're going to get serious. I lost my way. Well, how did I lose my way? I'm curious about that. Lost my way what? A, by exercising free speech. Do you have a problem with free speech? Apparently he does. B, by daring to put the brain matter between these two earlobes to work to come up with my own assessments. Now, again, you don't have to agree with me.
Right.
It's not un-American to disagree with Scott Ritter. It's actually the most American thing you can do. But it's also the most American thing I can do, put my opinion out there. Now, if you're an American, you would say, thank you, Scott, for exercising your freedom of speech and coming up with your own ideas, as opposed to, the most un-American thing I can think of, parroting CNN, parroting MSNBC, parroting mainstream media. You're not really thinking too much if all you do is repeat the tripe that comes from those organizations. You're an American when you say, I've listened to all this, done my own research, and I've come up with my own opinion. That's why I love the Norman Rockwell painting. He did a series of paintings called The Four Freedoms. And one of the four freedoms is freedom of speech. And have a man standing in a church or in a public hall, we don't know what, but he's standing there and he has a look and he's speaking. He has something in his hands, probably some flyer that has his position or a position he's challenging on, but he's speaking, but he's not ranting, he's speaking. He's looking at somebody and he's speaking, and everybody in the audience is looking up at him. Now, you can't tell by their eyes whether or not they agree with him or disagree with him, but they're respecting the fact that this man is standing there, taking a stand, speaking respectfully to everybody in the room. Freedom of speech, it's what defines who we are as a people. as a nation.
Yep.
And so when people come out and say things like Putin's puppet, you do understand that when you call me that, A, you're not insulting me because I don't care. You're insulting yourself because it shows you are not an American, that you have no clue what this country stands for, that you have no understanding, no basic fundamental understanding of the United States Constitution and the principles that are inherent in that. And you have lost your way, not me, you. NAFO has lost its way. Everybody out there that fails to respect people's duty and responsibility to speak out. You don't have to agree, but to sit there and mock them, to try and silence them through this kind of petty name calling, it's not a good look. It's a decidedly un-American look.
So, so Scott, to kind of follow up there, have you been asked to go on, say, Fox News or MSNBC or any what we would call mainstream or legacy media? Has anybody called you, rang your phone, and said, "Hey, Ritter, your perspective is different, very unique, and we'd love to have you on so we can maybe do, Scott Ritter over here, and I don't know, Mike Pompeo. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of somebody who would be, a worthy opponent to you. But my question is, has anyone asked you to provide some unique perspective on any of the major news outlets?
I get calls from people. Mm-hmm. Some of them are the hosts. Some of them are the producers of hosts who want to talk to me on the phone, off the record. Oh. But I can't go on air. You see, I'm too controversial. The show would be distracted by the controversy that is Scott Ritter. So while they're curious into why I believe what I believe, my presence is not desirable. Okay. I don't, look, I'm as human as the next person. And after spending a lifetime watching the big news, when I had the opportunity to go on, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. I don't know if you remember Ted Koppel.
Yeah.
He did an ABC show. I don't know. Gosh, I can't remember. Nightline. Big show. Ted Koppel, big star. And when you get the phone call from Ted Koppel saying, "Come on, Nightline," you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the guy that used to do Meet the Press? Again, big name. He died.
Tim Russert.
Tim Russert. When you get Tim Russert personally calling you, asking you to come on Meet the Press, and be the number one guest for Meet the Press, what the heck? Yeah. Peter Jennings wants to interview you live on TV. Tom Brokaw wants to interview you live on TV. Dan Rather wants to interview you live on TV. And suddenly you're, first of all, it goes to your head a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's sort of an ego boost. But the first thing you have to do, and if you don't do it yourself, make sure you have a good wife or good friends to do it for you, is have someone punch you in the face, bring you down to earth and say, you still put your pants on one leg at a time and you stink. So, don't think you're too special. And that's very important because you can get caught up in the thing, because then what happens is it's not about you appearing on the Enterprise. It's about you trying to please the Enterprise. And the moment you try to please the Enterprise, that is the moment you stop saying what you believe and you start saying what you think they want to hear, you're a lost cause. And I can say with absolute certainty and integrity that I never tried to please the establishment. I will admit to really enjoying being on the establishment. It was a big, big ego boost, especially after spending years laboring in the shadows, doing things. And, it's not that I said I never got any credit for it, but doing things that other people were taking credit for, other people were on TV talking about. You're sitting there going, laughing to your buddies over a beer going, that's us. That's us they're talking about. That's us. We're the principals, but we're not on TV and we don't care. But suddenly you get the chance to go on TV and it's a little bit of an ego boost. But then you realize that the establishment doesn't really care what you have to say. They care about whatever narrative they can create around you. You become a selling point. You become a draw. You become, a comforting factor, a name that makes people feel comfortable into listening what you have to say, as long as what you have to say is compatible with the thematics that are put down by the higher ups. And I caught on to that really, really, really quick. That's why my tenure at NBC News was 6 months. That's why my tenure at Fox News was 6 months. And when I say 6 months, that's because I signed a contract that they had to pay me for 6 months. My tenure with NBC News ended after about a month and a half. My tenure with Fox News ended shorter than that because it became clear that I wasn't playing a game. But no, it's, they look, there's producers out there that are serious producers. There's producers that are jokes. There's producers that are serious producers. And I get a lot of calls from serious producers that want to know why I'm saying what I'm saying and all that. And they thank me for giving them the answer, but they will never invite me on the show. I will never ask to go on their show. And if they invite me, frankly speaking, I might say no, depending on what their reasoning for having me on is. But, they thank me, but, the ones, some are just apologetic saying, we'd like to have you on, but and they were honest, you're too controversial. We can't have you on. I have been invited on, I won't name them, but recently on 2 big shows on 2 mainstream networks where I thought I was actually going to go on. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I told my wife, God, they're actually going to invite me on. Should I go? And she said, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
But then literally at the last second, a phone call came in. One of them sort of, we're not doing that story anymore. We're moving on to something else. Oh, really? The biggest story of the day, and you're not doing it anymore. Okay. Yeah. And the other person said, we bumped it up to, we when we told the higher ups, they came back and said, no, controversial, can't use them. So, it is what it is. I don't lose too much sleep.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm thinking, Scott, is there's a narrative, and you and I think we both know what that narrative is, and your presence represents a different narrative. I mean, I don't know if you've been following the Speaker of the House debacle. I don't know how many votes they've had now for Kevin McCarthy, who continues to not secure enough votes to become the Speaker of the House. The guy who has got the Ukrainian lapel pin on. And sometimes he's even got the little handkerchief there inside his little pocket because that looks really classy. You got all that. So you're going to go from one Speaker of the House who, kisses Zelensky to another Speaker of the House who he might not kiss Zelensky. Maybe he might. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But it's weird because it's a uniparty for the most part. That's the way I look at things. There are a few Congress people here and there. You had Matt Gaetz say some things I think that were, fairly impressive. And then you had some turncoats. You had like Marjorie Taylor Greene all of a sudden. I like this guy. And Thomas Massey kind of blew me away. He's voted for him every single time the votes come up. Is this war machine just too big to slow down? Is it just too big?
What I was looking for, I have to find it because I need it for tomorrow, is a letter that I received from Paul Tonko, my congressman.
Yeah.
When I notified him that his vote in favor of money to Ukraine resulted in the creation of an institution that labeled me an information terrorist, passed my name on to a hit squad and all that stuff. And I wanted to ask him, how does he feel about that? And I got this standard plate,
thank you for contacting.
Is this, the war in Ukraine is this, I voted for Ukraine for this, that, and the other. He didn't address my issue. He just basically why Russia sucks, Ukraine is great.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow night, I'm going to speak to a bunch of activists. Now, normally I'm not a fan of speaking to activists anymore. I mean, they're well-meaning people, but it's literally almost a waste of time because nothing happens. You speak, they clap, and the evening ends, and they end up on the street corner a week later holding signs that nobody reads, and nothing changes. They've been doing this for 30 years, and you got to applaud the tenacity, but you have to call out.
Who's the group, Scott? Who is it that who are they?
It's Bethlehem Neighbors for Peace and UNAC, an anti-war coalition. Good people. Yeah. Please, if you guys are listening to me, I'm not attacking you as individuals, but you yourselves have acknowledged in conversations, public and private, that you're not succeeding. So tomorrow I'm going to come up with an idea. And I have to be honest, the idea didn't originate with me. I received a phone call from a guy who challenged me and said, if you're going to go speak before these people, and I wrote a book called Waging Peace, The Art of War for the Anti-War Movement. I mean, and the epilogue of the book is called On Winning. See, I start the book on losing. It's chapter 1, on losing. And basically I say losing sucks. Right. That if you're doing something and you lose, you suck. You really do. Yeah. I mean, I know we want to be nice. Everybody gets a participation trophy and we applaud all stuff. But no, losing sucks. If you don't want to lose, you don't play the game. But if you go on, if I'm going to play basketball, I'm going on to win. Yeah. If I'm playing football, I'm going to win. I'm going to try everything to win. If I'm going to enter into a political race, I want to win. I don't enter into a political race to lose. Losing sucks. Yeah. And what I basically said is that the peace movement is conditioned to lose. The anti-war movement has trained itself to lose. They don't win. They don't know how to win. And the conclusion on winning basically says to win, you got to actually try to win. And you got to be focused on winning. And you don't win when you say, I'm against war, I'm against war, I'm against war. But I would never, ever work with big oil to stop a war because big oil's bad. Then you're not against war. You're against big oil, which is okay. But don't tell me you're against war. You're going to sit here and tell me that I'm against war, then you should be willing to work with anybody that would stop the war. Anybody. If not, you're not willing to win. You don't want to win. You want to lose. You want to feel good. You want to participate. So I'm going to tell them that Paul Tonko needs to be primary. You see, Paul Tonko's never been primary in a long time because we just assume he's going to be our representative. And that allows Paul Tonko never to have to answer a question. You see, if you're not primary, if you're not challenged, you don't have to answer a question. Yeah. You just get to send people these stupid little letters. They need to find a candidate, a viable candidate, someone who can win, who has a name, doesn't have baggage. You put that candidate up and you tell Tonko, I'm primarying you. And the issue is Ukraine and your stance on Ukraine. That's it, baby, because you suck. And you start to primary them, people back you up, and Tonko can't ignore you. And eventually Tonko's going to have to debate you. And when he debates you, you pound the snot out of him. You it's a WWF, full ring, throw chairs, whatever. Toss him out of the ring. No mercy, slaughtering of Paul Tonko. And every time he says something, you counterpunch and say, no, wrong. You voted for a war in Ukraine. You slaughtered 1 million Ukrainians. You wasted $100 billion U.S. taxpayer money. You suck. And you just do that and you beat them. Yeah. You do that to every single one of these little cowardly pieces of crap that are running for Congress and aren't being challenged. I would go straight up to McCarthy, spit in his face and say, take that flag off, you cowardly son of a bitch. Why are you wearing the symbol of a Nazi regime? Oh, yeah, because pieces of crap like you brought the Azov regiment into my house. Because Congress is my house. You're a temporary resident, you cowardly, snot-nosed, punk-ass, whatever you want to. I already said calling people names isn't good, but here I am calling them names. At least I'm willing to do it to his face. Right. And then you take that stupid snot rag out and you punch his nose and you say, here, cover it with blood, at least have honor. No, all these people wearing the flags, I'm with Ukraine. They have no clue what they're talking about. They need to be primaried. They need to be challenged. They need to be put right in their face. And you got to do it with all the energy and emotion that you would do with the most important thing in your life, because this is the most important thing in your life. People, I remember telling guys, I'm in favor of war doing Iraq. Really? Would you send your son to Iraq? No. Then shut the, up. Right. All right. I don't want to hear one word from you if you're not willing to take your son and have him die in Iraq. If you're not willing to have your daughter get gutted in Iraq, if you're not willing to do that, then shut up, because all you're asking is other people to do it for you and to make you a coward. So on Ukraine, are you willing? all you guys, NAFO boys, do you really want to go and die? To take your son and put him on the front line. Put your son on the front line. Go to Bakhmut yourself. We're going to let the Lindsey Graham. We're going to let the Ukrainians die to the last Ukraine. You cowardly fat pig. Go to Bakhmut, Lindsey. Go tour the front line.
Yeah.
You'll feel what it's like to have your head blown off. You only get to feel it once, but it'll be a glorious thing. But all these people sitting there talking this, that, and the other thing, none of them ever put, they don't put any sweat equity, any blood equity into it. They're cowards. They're literally cowards asking other people to pay the price for their words. If they truly believe in what they say, then they need to step up to the plate and do it. And that's what I'm telling the peace movement tomorrow. If you believe in this, if you're anti-war, then start playing the game.
Yeah.
In the game to win. And the game is to get America off this pro-war track onto a track that makes sense. Now, what track that is to make sense, that's a different question altogether. Maybe once we get on that track, you don't like big oil anymore. Maybe you don't like all these industries or what. But understand that you're going to need their help to win this fight. And this is the most important fight because it's not just about war, meaning people getting machine gunned to death, blown to bits. It's about nuclear war. It means we all frickin' die. We all die. So it's time to step up to the plate, anti-war movement. It's time to believe in something, really believe in something, and start organizing for victory. I wrote a damn template for it. Maybe you'll read the book someday. I don't know. But even if you don't want to read that book, come up with your own template. You know, that'd be nice. Come up with your own plan for victory. But please, please, please don't have that plan simply end with people standing on the street corner with signs, because that is meaningless.
Well, it's another, to me, it sounds like another form of virtue signaling. I think we've seen it. It seems to be a certain group, and it's a smaller group than it used to be, by the way, because when I was a kid, there seemed to be an anti-war movement in this country. It was the same kind of granola crunchy, sort of very lefty, I only go to Whole Foods, that kind of person. And I don't have anything necessarily against that. But like you said, if you really want to do something, I think you have to form alliances. I'm kind of more libertarian than anything else. And I've noticed there are some old school progressives who I probably don't agree with on a lot of economics and certain cultural issues and things that are kind of in my camp. And they'll say, hey, yeah, this is really stupid that we're still, in whatever, name a country. I mean, we're ramping up activity in places like Syria. Now we're provoking China. We're getting into the whole China-Taiwan thing. I mean, you go all over the place, Scott. I mean, the Ukraine thing is much more visible because the news media likes to talk about it like, yeah, everybody's kind of supporting Ukraine in this. And, Kevin McCarthy, he wants to be he wants to be the speaker so bad, Scott. I mean, that's his thing. I mean, he even, from what I heard, I think he moved into Pelosi's office already. And some of these guys are like, whoa, wait a minute. Out of principle, that would drive me crazy. I'm like, you think you've already got this in the bag.
Yeah.
You're spending money that we don't have. You're not, even from the financial, there's so many angles, Scott, to look at this from. Okay, so accountability. A couple guys kind of in the back of the room raise their hand, like Rand Paul. They're like, hey, just curious, where's this money going? And these weapons, are they going to the right people, or are they now on the black market? Just kind of like the kid in the back of the class, like, hey, I got a question here. And everybody, the media comes down on him with a full force of every major network. Well, we know that he must, that's the thing. He must love, what do you love, Putin? You love Russians? And this isn't even if you don't like Vladimir Putin for whatever reason, you don't like the way he looks, you don't like the way he talks, whatever, you don't like his speeches. He gave a speech on New Year's, basically a strong speech, a very, manly, masculine, which, again, our president versus Putin. And I'm not saying, see, as soon as I say something like that, people are just going to go, oh, so you just hate America. That's your thing. You just don't like, and you're boxed in, because then if you try to explain, well, these are literal Nazis in Ukraine, and they've been attacking a region of their own country who is ethnically Russian since we installed a puppet. You want to talk about puppets? And then you got to go into all these details, Scott, and then their eyes glaze over.
David,
what?
Be careful. The strings are showing, man. Strings are showing.
Huh?
The strings are showing.
Strings are showing?
Strings.
Oh, on the puppet. I thought you were saying stranger.
Yeah, strings. The arm, when you move your arm like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Your strings are showing, man.
You're right. You're right, dude. I apologize to the audience right away. And, and for those who are going to be in the comments, by the way, all the comments now are going to be, they're on, but I'm going to look at them before I decide that they're, because of the puppet strings that I have, or just the fact that,
just do a better green screen job. That's all I ask. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I apologize. The strings are showing, but Scott, I mean, you can't even question the books. You can't even look at can you open these books and show me where this money is going? What's that movie from years ago? Dave, I think it was called. I should know it because it's, guys named after me, right? And he goes to DC and he finds all of this stuff and he becomes the president. And he's like, why are we, he's just looking at the books going, why are we sending all this money to people who aren't even alive anymore? Whatever he's finding, you hear that dead people vote, and you hear that people are getting checks who aren't alive anymore. And you look at government, how out of control and reckless it is. And we've got, again, I don't want to bring, actually I do. I want to bring it up. Because I've been down there. The people on the beach who lost everything near where I live.
Yeah.
It's disgusting that money is being sent to a foreign country. Now, I know there's a map behind me, so you might be able to find Ukraine on the map. I don't know. But that's
you gotta lower the map a little bit. We get stuck in the Black Sea, but I can't.
I know, it's right over here. But the point I'm trying to make, and you've made it as well as anyone on this show, is that there doesn't seem to be any accountability. You can't even raise your hand in the back of the room. You can't be Rand Paul. You can't be Thomas Massey, Marjorie. And they're just a few. There's like a handful. And this whole thing with McCarthy is like, shut up. Just sit down and shut up. It's McCarthy. Karl Rove was on TV the other day. I know how much you must love Karl Rove. He's on there saying this is the greatest disaster. This is a political suicide for the Republican Party. I mean, we need to just get on board. Even Trump said, hey, and for all you Trump lovers, and I voted for him, what's up with that? I mean, there's no fiscal responsibility. There's no accountability. And here we are, Scott. We're just waiting for vote number 35, where they cut some backroom deals, and McCarthy can show his handkerchief and then tell everybody, see. I mean, everybody's on board. Everybody loves this war in Ukraine, this endless war, and he'll get a call from Northrop Grumman or Raytheon saying, "Way to go, Kevin! Nice work, buddy."
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant.
Look, I mean, I'm a registered Republican.
Yeah.
I kept my registration just because it pisses off the current generation of Republicans. I'm a real Republican. I'm a Republican from back when the Republican Party actually stood for something. You don't have to agree with what it stood for, but it stood for something. I'm a Reagan Republican.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people went, well, that makes you evil. Maybe, but at least you know why I'm evil, because I stand for something, stand for principle. Unlike the current Republican Party, which stands for apparently putting Ukrainian flag lapels on your coat. I'm glad this is happening to McCarthy, and I'm glad this is happening to the Republican Party, because they need to fail, and they need to fail big, just like the Democratic Party needs to fail and fail big. Both parties need to collapse into nothingness and be rebuilt from within by a new generation of people who understand what they're fighting for. And if you have a Ukrainian flag, you don't understand anything. All the people out there, you said, you quoted Putin, or you love Russia, you love Putin. I have to ask people, let's just say that you supported the war in Ukraine. Does that automatically mean you love Zelensky? Do you have to love Zelensky to support Ukraine? Yeah. Or could you theoretically say, on principle, I support the notion of a nation's right to defend itself from outside aggression, but I think Zelensky's a piece of crap. But I'm going to support this war, but I think he's dog poop, and I think The Banderas are horrible. I understand, but I think that they are a minority. And I mean, I'm not agreeing with that statement. I'm just saying it's possible actually to support a cause without supporting the mouthpiece of the cause.
Yeah.
And and so it's possible to have the opposite and say, I believe that Russia was pushed into a corner. I believe that William Burns had it right in April 2008 when he wrote a memorandum called Net Means Net, begging people not to invite Ukraine in, because if you invited Ukraine into NATO, you would, as William Burns said, ultimately trigger a military intervention by Russia into Ukraine that will cost Ukraine Crimea and the Donbass. I mean, if we knew that in 2008, that means that we did everything that followed with the knowledge that Russia would invade. So we were deliberately provoking a Russian invasion. And then, it also means that you have to understand that the Minsk Accords, which Russia took seriously, but apparently neither Ukraine, Germany, or France did. They all viewed it as a sham. Sham to do what? Buy time for what? For Ukraine to build up a military capable of confronting Russia in the Donbass and Crimea. That was born in 2008. That decision to have a sham, ceasefire and peace accord was founded on the principles established in 2008 when Ukraine was invited, knowing it would trigger a Russian action. That NATO and the United States and everybody else was always looking for a war in Ukraine with Russia, was always looking for. This wasn't, a precipitous, unprovoked act of aggression by Russia. This was Russia having no choice but to act to defend itself because NATO and the collective West was using Ukraine as a vehicle to defeat Russia militarily, a plan dating back to at least 2008. So when you say that, maybe the Russian cause is worthy of support. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you automatically have to support everything that Vladimir Putin says or does. It just means that you recognize that the Russian cause is good. But here's the challenge I have for people, because I always take umbrage with the people. Well, you're supporting Putin. Well, maybe I'm supporting him because he's the smartest man out there. Maybe I'm supporting him because every time he speaks, he makes sense. Maybe I'm supporting him because he's on the right side of history. Maybe I'm supporting him because he's worthy of support. Let's do a blind test. Let's take Zelensky's greatest speech ever. The one he delivered to Congress, Nancy Pelosi, has deemed it the greatest speech in the entire history of the United States. I mean, there's never a better speech delivered in Congress. I mean, nothing. Only Zelensky's speech. Well, let's take Zelensky's speech. Problem is, well, nobody will know the words. Well, let's just remove the name. We'll just say this is one of the greatest speeches ever delivered. And then we can give Joe Biden's greatest speech, but we'll remove the name. This is one of the greatest speeches ever delivered. Oh, we'll take anybody in America. Then I'll take Vladimir Putin. I don't know, I'll take his Munich address, 2007. That's a good one. Or the April address to the Federal Assembly in April of 2005. I'll take any address he's given recently. We'll just take the name off. We'll mix them up. And we'll do a blind test, put it out there and tell people, rate them from the top to bottom, which speech is the best, which one articulates best, what is the best argument. Vladimir Putin's going to win every single time because Zelensky's nonsensical, Biden just rambles, but Putin is on point, strong, making sense. That's why I support Putin, not because I'm his puppet, because he's the only one out there worthy of support at this time. Joe Biden isn't. McCarthy isn't. Pelosi wasn't. Zelensky damn sure isn't. Does it make me his puppet? No, it makes me the smartest person out here because I'm supporting the smartest person out there. I'm not ashamed of it. You want to challenge me on this? Then challenge me on it. Don't call me Putin's puppet. Tell me Vladimir Putin's an idiot because of X, Y, and Z. And then I'll respond and say, no, he's brilliant because of, A, B, and C. And we can have a debate about it. Wouldn't that be nice to have a debate, discussion, dialogue based on informed, notions that are derived from an understanding of primary materials like the basic speeches delivered by these people? But no, I'm Putin's puppet for this. Well, okay, call me a puppet. I'll take that because it's not an insult. Because if your definition of Putin's puppet is the guy who actually reads the damn speeches given by the man, puts them in the context of the time, and applies them to the overall geopolitical situation in the world, then make me a puppet. I'll be a puppet. If you want to call me that, hell, call me Solovyev's, what do you call me? Solovyev's girlfriend?
Girlfriend, yeah.
I don't know, but I'll be that. You can call me anything you want. I'll take it. Well, pile on the labels. Because if what you're saying, if you're labeling me for what I'm actually doing, then that's a good label. That's a label I'll take. Because, you're trying to criticize me, but you're really not. You're showing that you have no clue what I'm doing, what I'm about, what actually is behind the decisions that I make. I don't support Vladimir Putin because he's the president of Russia. I'm not a Russian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who's president of Russia. Well, in a way, I do, because we need a good leader in Russia, just like we need a good leader in India, a good leader in China, a good leader in the United States. The world needs good leaders, and Russia's blessed with one of the greatest leaders of our time. But this isn't blind support.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't support Yeltsin. You know,
Yeah.
if I was a tool of Russia, I would have supported Yeltsin. I'd support anybody in the presidency. Oh, I support Vladimir Putin because Vladimir Putin is one of the smartest men in the world today. He's a man who actually considers the issues. He's articulate about the issues. I don't have to guess that he is well briefed on a subject, because he's then going to sit there and take questions for 4 hours straight and answer the questions in an impromptu fashion, drawing upon factual material that when you fact check, it turns out to be 100% correct. So, yeah, I like Vladimir Putin. I support Vladimir Putin. And if that makes me Vladimir Putin's puppet, so be it. I'll take that title because I know what's behind it. I know what I've done to earn that title. But if you think being Vladimir's puppet, Putin's puppet, means I actually have strings on me, think again. If you think that he controls me because they pay me, I'll put my. I mean, these people are so stupid. I want to tell people how stupid you are. You do understand that I'm an American citizen. I live in the United States of America, and I file my taxes. And on the taxes, it lists all my sources of income. And any source of income that comes in from a wire transfer, goes through the Department of Treasury. And they have this thing called OFAC, the Office of Foreign Asset Control. And they go through everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there's no possibility that there's any untoward activity taking place. And then that money enters into my account, and I pay taxes on it. So all you people out there saying what you're saying, understand this. Every penny I make is lawfully earned. There's no untoward activity taking place. And I will also tell you that if you think that RT, the money paid to me by RT, is a game changer, changing my life, no, it isn't. Am I happy with the money I bring in from RT? Absolutely, just like I'm happy with the money I bring in from Consortium News. I provide work. I write articles. Those articles are published, and they pay me for those articles. I'm happy for anybody paying me for my labor, my honest labor. But the notion that an RT editor is calling up the phone again, there's the, hello, wait, the puppet. Oh, you want me to write an article? You want it to say this, that, and the other thing, and make sure not to say this, that, and the other thing? Yes, I'll do that. That's not how it works. How it works is I come up with the idea, I call them, I say, this is the article I'm going to write, and they say, write that article. They send the article, and they publish the article.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Right.
Unlike, for instance, where I used to get money from the American Conservative. I'm going to name them. People say don't burn bridges. Well, they're never going to hire me again, so I don't care. But the American Conservative, I wrote for them for many, many years. Right before they released me, I got the phone call from their editor, the editor, saying, "Scott, your article was the #1 article of the year. #1 article. Congratulations, you did a great job. You're wonderful. You're this, that. Oh, you're suddenly politically inconvenient because you write for RT. So we're releasing you." But the American Conservative, they actually tried to shape what I was saying. I would write something and say, well, no, our funders aren't happy with this. You need to do this, that, and the other thing. Wow, if Russia tried to do that with me, you'd say, oh, you're a Putin's puppet, and you'd be right. But when the American Conservative or any other of these other mainstream American outlets, you don't think that mainstream American outlets don't control what goes into there. You think that, I mean, another one I wrote for Truth Dig.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the American conservative. This tells you how ideologically confused I must be. I wrote for the American conservative and Truth Dig at the same time.
Time.
My God, pleasing two different masters. But the Truth Dig, same thing. I'd write something and they'd push back. And I'd push back on, trust me, I never gave in. I'd always push back. And I just remind them who the F they're talking to.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be one thing if I was writing on the mating habits of humpback whales off Baja, California. And you said, Scott, you got this fact wrong. I'd be like, well, yeah, well, because I'm not really an expert on the mating habits of humpback whales off the coast of Baja, California. I just thought it'd be cool to write about. But they're pushing back on issues such as, on-site inspection, verification, things like that. And I'm sitting there going, guys, I wrote the damn book on it. I literally wrote the book on it. And now you, an editor, and I've read your resume, you don't know jack squat about anything. You're coming back and you're pushing back. That ain't going to work. That's not how this works. We're going to write it the way I wrote it, or we're not going to write it and we're not going to publish it. And 9 times out of the 10, they'd publish it. Sometimes they wouldn't publish it, which is their prerogative. But my point is, there's far more control taking place in the American media world with editors who are responsible to funders. I always love when people, you're a whore for Russia because you take RT money. Wow. Okay. What's that make me if I take CNN money? A whore for CNN?
Right.
I mean, the bottom line is, when you get paid by people, you're providing a service to them and they're compensating you for that. And it's the terms of that relationship is what matters. Okay. I just told you that the terms of my relationship with RT are such that I write whatever the F I want to write. Yeah. And they publish it or they don't publish it. If they publish it, they pay me. If they don't publish it, I don't get paid. But I never write what they want me to write. I never receive the phone call from my masters and I'm told to say something that makes Vladimir Putin look good on this day. 9 times out of 10, when they hit me with things, but like when they come up, I write back and say, I'm not an expert on that. I'm uncomfortable talking about this. And that's it. Yeah. I only write about things that I'm comfortable writing about, and I only write them on my terms. But in the United States, it's impossible. I won't mention the magazine that I've written for before because I like them and I hope to write for them again. But just the basic pitch. I mean, pitching a story, pitching an idea to them, and going through the whole editorial process of this, that, and the other thing, to make sure that the 4 corners of the article are well defined before you even get to write it. If that's not control, I don't know what control is. Yeah. So the idea that they're in America with freedom of speech, that we have all these great writers out there that are just freely writing what they want. We have these wonderful open-minded publishers who say, oh, thank you for expressing your view so eloquently. We'll be proud to publish it. It doesn't work that way anymore because those editors have to report to a board that is responsible to funders, people who underwrite them, and the people who pay the money have an agenda. They're paying money into this magazine because they want the magazine to promote a particular ideological line, an ideological narrative. And if your article doesn't fit that ideological narrative, they don't want to pay you for that article. Right. So again, back to what you started on. Putin's puppet, do better, guys. Do better. It just doesn't work.
Do better. And what you're saying too rings true with RT, because I remember I became a big fan of RT America when they were still around before they basically got shut down. And I remember watching Rick Sanchez, who had been on other channels, and then he wound up doing a news show over there. And he had this great tagline. He's like, it's time to do the news again. And then one night he went off because, I'm sure he was getting all kinds of hate mail, like, they're telling you what to say. And he went out there and said, and I don't know why I would not believe what he was saying, but he's like, no, they don't tell me what to say. I can say, and pretty much every host on there was allowed to go on and basically say, nope, and you had left wingers on there who, I didn't watch, but every so often I might tune in for a few minutes. And you had people more to the center, more to the right. And it was kind of an interesting, network when it existed, because you had all these different perspectives, which I think is lacking. You've either got, a lefty channel or a channel, a neo, but they're all kind of walking in lockstep now with a lot of different issues. But it's tribalism. It's like your tribe is over here, so you hang out with those people, and this other tribe is over there, and you need to kind of align with those people, and you can't listen to any other perspective. And I'm thinking, we need more speech now than ever before. We don't need less speech. We need more. And, like Matt Taibbi, he's dumping all the Twitter files out. And I hear people on the right saying, oh, he's just a left-wing journalist. I mean, you can't trust Matt Taibbi. And I'm thinking this was kind of brilliant, because Taibbi is kind of a truth teller. It's like Glenn Greenwald. You might not agree with everything Glenn believes in, but he's out there telling the truth from his ideological vantage point. And I think it gives it more credibility rather than less credibility, because now you're uniting, like I said, the populist right and the progressive old left and independents and libertarians and all these people who are just tired of the BS. We're just tired. Just give us some truth. Give us something that's reality based, when it comes to journalistic integrity.
I always loved in Russia. There's these organizations, Medusa, and another, Moscow. I don't know what they call themselves, but they used to be Russian based, but they left Russia. Why? Why did they leave Russia? Because there's no freedom of speech. There's oppression. Really? I thought you left Russia because you were taking money from the CIA and MI6. That's why you left Russia, is that you were being paid by foreign entities to write news stories that deliberately sought to undermine the Russian government.
Wow.
And why can I say that and not be accused of trying to prop up Putin? Well, there's Channel 1, Channel 24. These are big channels in Russia. And most Americans don't even know they exist. I mean, it's not like it's can't find it on the American channel. It doesn't exist. Russia actually has news organizations. They have media. They report on things, and they have these talk shows. And most Americans are unaware that these things exist. And to be honest, most talk shows are like the American talk shows, meaning you get a bunch of people around who yell at each other.
Right.
If you like that sort of kind of an entertainment, wow, you'll be entertained. If you speak Russian, I'd advise you to watch these shows. They're very entertaining. But, for a place that has this controlled media, listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin betrayed his country. The Russian leadership needs to be fired. This is outrageous. When they're talking about the war, this war in Ukraine has produced a lot of pushback from a lot of areas, and they're expressing it on state-controlled TV. Now you're saying, wait a minute. If it's state controlled, why are they doing that? Because Russia ain't a dictatorship.
Right.
All right. You can't, if you're, there was that girl, a female journalist who, paraded behind somebody with a sign a little while back, I'm against the war or something like that. And they fired her. There was like, see, suppression of freedom of speech. Really? Imagine if you worked for CNN. And Don Lemon's up there. Hi, my name's Don Lemon, and I'm telling the news. And one of the producers decided they were going to parade behind Don Lemon with a sign. Do you think CNN would A, promote them?
No.
B, give them a raise, or C, fire them? Fire. Okay, so she got fired because she's stupid, because she did something that was stupid that disrupted a broadcast, just like you would be here. But everybody's like, oh, she's going. They fired her and they gave her a fine of like $60, and then she got to go home. She's not rotting in the gulag. She's not being tortured. She's not being burned at the stake. She did something really stupid, something that was, frankly speaking, illegal. And so she got fined for it. But, people just need to learn more about Russia before. Am I sitting here saying that Russia is the tip of the, of the pyramid, the best of the best? Everything in Russia is perfect? Hell no. Not too many Russians would say that. Most Russians would laugh at the notion of perfection in Russia because stuff doesn't work. It's not perfect, but it's Russia. It's
Yeah.
their problem. Just like America, we're not the tip of the pyramid either.
Nope.
Stuff doesn't work. If you go down to Florida, it would be proof positive we're not the tip of the pyramid. I can go out right now and find homeless within 5 minutes of my house. Homeless on a day like today where it's cold, sleet, rain. I step outside and it immediately just penetrates anything I'm wearing. It's that kind of miserable weather. And we have homeless out there and people drive by them. I mean, my damn wallet's empty this morning. I'm not bragging or anything because I hate giving away money because I have no confidence that they're going to do anything good with it. I'm probably feeding a heroin addiction or an alcoholic, but I can't help when I see somebody on the side of the road with a sign that says, I'm a U.S. veteran. I need help. I'm homeless. You know, what the fuck? Oh, sorry. What the heck? I empty my wallet for those people because there before the grace of God go I, you know, but why is it up to me to empty my wallet? Why isn't the state coming down and saying, hey, come here, here's shelter, here's home, here's a vocation training program. You have an addiction. We're going to get you off the addiction. We're going to take care of you. Aren't we supposed to be a nation of individuals who believe in, you know, not just individuality, but humanity? But we don't. So please, all you people that sit there and say, Scott, you're putting up Russia, you're promoting them. No, Russia's broke, just like we're all broke. But Russia's less broke because you're not going to find that kind of homeless problem in Russia. You're not going to find that kind of homeless problem in Russia. They actually have, I could be corrected, all the Russian viewers out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a constitutional right to shelter.
Yeah.
I think it's a right to have shelter. It's not something that you sort of get. The state, the nation is to provide you with shelter. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to be outdoors getting rained on and cold and all that stuff. So, you know, I'm not promoting communism. I'm not promoting socialism. I am promoting basic human decency.
Yeah.
And we don't have that here.
Nope.
And in many ways, Russia does it better than we do. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, well, what about LGBT? Hey, that's an American thing. Okay. We've decided to go down that path. Yeah. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm not, you know, I believe in people's right to do what they want to do, et cetera, as long as it doesn't infringe on my rights. And I'll just say it right up front. If you're teaching an underage kid about transitioning to another gender, get the hell out of my life. You know, if you're 18 and you want to become, if you're a guy and you want to become a girl, okay.
Yeah.
I support.
You and I agree.
We'll tell the kids. But, you know, Russia has looked at this and looked at, you know, Russia looks at America long distance. They actually look at us far more than we look at them. And the Russians have looked at America and they've taken a look at what the explosion of LGBTQ rights has done to America from a long distance view. And they said, we don't want that happening here.
Right.
That's not the model that we want. We're going to promote, you know, man, woman, single family, family values, things like that. Now, as Americans, we can look at that and go, yeah, but that's too prejudiced. There's gays out there, there's queers out there, there's transgender people out there, and they all have rights, and we can't deny them rights. And your central focus on that isn't our thing. Okay, that's our right as an American country. We want to do that. That's what we can do. But don't sit there and knock the Russians for looking at it and going, hey, you go ahead, do your thing, but we're not going to do it here because you're really, really broke, and we're not going to go that route. It's two different ways, but if you're demanding that people respect us in our ability to have these freedoms, then we have to respect their ability to define what their society is to look like. And if we don't like it, don't move there. Don't move there.
Right.
But, you know, anyways, that's a long way of saying that the world is very complex.
It is complex. And, you know, we used to believe in the right of other countries to, you know, to do self-determination, right? To be who they want to be. But then we go around the world trying to remake everybody in now we do it in a way where we're exporting our values. And Russia, you mentioned there, when it comes to minors, I'm sorry, that's like child abuse as far as that's my take.
Like child abuse, it is child abuse.
Okay, all right. So I mean, again, I'm not trying to be. As soon as you come out though and say things like that, people will jump on you and they'll immediately. and they'll immediately say, well, you mentioned 18, okay, right? 18. I think when you're an adult and you want to do whatever you want to do, again, I'm a libertarian. I say, go ahead. I mean, I may not agree with what you're doing, and I may even tell you to your face, that's really stupid. But hey, it's your life. You do what you want with your life. I think that's what freedom is supposed to be, right? But we're also supposed to be able to have a conversation about what we agree on, what we disagree on. And then, people, again, can go through all the ideas. They can read books. They can become more educated. They can get what I consider informed consent on every issue. Finally, you know what you're talking about. So now maybe you can actually make a good decision, right? And then if your decision is still to do X, and I'm saying, the guy's an idiot for doing X, he should have done Y, then go ahead. I'm still like, go ahead. You do it anyway. There's no law in place that says you can't do that. And here in the United States,
there shouldn't be a law in place that says you can't do that. It shouldn't be a law. This is America.
Right. But I mean, Russia, if they think they're going to be a better, stronger, freer, more productive country, that's their business, and we should leave it there. But now, it becomes a culture war. So it's the culture war. It's us against Russia. And most everybody in our government, Scott, is like, yeah, that's another reason. That's another reason.
Yeah, what Americans don't understand about Russia, and again, I know people from Russia are going to watch this show, and if I'm wrong, feel free to say it.
They'll correct you.
They will correct me. But, the backlash in Russia about LGBTQ, I got to make sure I get all the numbers and letters in there, isn't so much derived from inside Russia, although there is a strong, I'm here to tell you right now that Russia is far more conservative socially than the United States. But it's even Vladimir Putin at one point in time basically said, I don't have a problem with you being gay. I have a problem with you trying to make children gay or trying to, change other people's life. You can do what you want to do.
Right.
But you can't seek to impose you on this. And the reason why I bring that up is I actually think Russian laws would be far less severe if America just let Russia mind its own damn business.
Yeah.
But Russia's responding to our incessant effort to export our mindset, our ideology, our wokeism, our LGBTQ, thoughts to them, to say, if you don't mirror image what we have embraced, then you are evil, you are wrong. And I think the Russians are saying, no. And not only that, we're not even going to open the window for you. We're not going to open the door's not going to be open to crack. We're shutting it all down right now.
Yeah.
And so we, by trying to export this, have stopped Russia from having the kind of internal domestic conversations that need to take place about these very complicated and controversial issues.
Right.
I can't tell you that I can predict how Russia would work. I lean towards conservatism but I can say that I think that Russia would have been far more tolerant of alternative lifestyles if they didn't feel that those alternative lifestyles served as an attraction point for attracting foreign engagement in Russian society, foreign efforts to shape Russian society. Russian society should be shaped by Russians.
Correct.
Just like American society should be shaped by Americans. And yet we continuously try to export this stuff, and it's being rejected for cause. But I just think I just believe that if you believe in homosexual rights, gay rights, I don't know, I'm going to get in trouble because I'm so.
Yeah, it's fine.
But if you believe in gay rights or homosexual rights, then the best way to support homosexual rights and gay rights in Russia is to let Russia make that determination on their own. Let Russia, because the Russians that I know, they're not cruel people. They're not inhuman people. They're not stupid people.
Right.
They're fully aware of complexities of society. fully cognizant of the fact that there are gays out there. But if we got to let them decide what they want to do and how they want to do it without any outside interference. And I bet you the end result wouldn't be horrible. But if we try to impose ourselves on them, then they will gather around, tighten the belts. Now the hate ideology comes out. And now this is how you get gays being beat up in bars. This is how you get, transgenders being beat up and stuff, because we have forced Russia to close off the discussion, create a black and white environment. And there's, when you do that, there will be reactions, just like there would be here. It wasn't long ago that, steel workers would go down to gay bars and beat up gays for fun.
Yeah.
For fun. Why? Well, because probably half of the steel workers are gay and they just wanted to prove to other people that they're more manly than everybody else because they didn't want to expose the fact that secretly they're gay. Who knows? But the point is that happens in America right now.
Yeah.
With all of our open-mindedness and all that stuff, we still have hate crimes and things like that taking place. And yet we continuously point an accusatory finger at Russia. And this is one of the big issues that's like Jamie Raskin, my favorite idiot from Maryland. Sitting there, he highlights LGBTQ rights all the time, and yet he allowed the wife of an Azov Nazi, who is the leader of an anti-lesbian group in Ukraine, the leader of an anti-lesbian group. And when I say anti-lesbian group, they beat them up. Yeah. They saran wrap them. I don't know if they kill them, but they want to kill them. But he let her in and praised her as a hero. So he's a hypocrite. He's a hypocrite. He doesn't even believe in what he says he believes in. Yeah. But enough of that. We've gone way off track.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of this format, Scott. Whatever we want to talk about, we go there. I just gave you an easy subject today, which was to tackle this whole Putin puppet thing. And the only reason I wanted to do it was because I was kind of fired up yesterday. There were some comments about me, the comments about you. And so I'm sitting there going, okay, well, we'll have Scott on and we'll address this. And I think people will, maybe they'll start to look at maybe some of the things that are happening on the ground over there right now. From what I understand, in some places, Scott, it's getting cold and it's getting dark. Is that true?
Well, I'm not there, so I
you don't know firsthand, but reports
when I look
coming
at the
in.
weather, it looks like the cold front's coming down, temperatures are going to drop, and when I look at the functionality of the Ukrainian electrical grid, it seems not to function for cause because it's been blown up by the Russians. So life sucks if you're a Ukrainian. Yeah. It really does, and I would say. This is a tough one. When do you stop being innocent?
Yeah.
At what point do you stop being innocent? Because at some point in time, Ukrainians have to take responsibility for what's happening. And I don't mean Zelensky, I mean the average Ukrainian has to take responsibility for what's happening. And the fact that they continue to blame, and I know people are going to say, well, the SBU is going to put them in a basement and beat them up. Gosh, the British were threatening to do that to Americans back in the day. But we did the right thing. We rose up and kicked them the hell out of our country. And at some point in time, Ukrainians have to say, and this is kind of because I've been, people have asked me the question before, if I were Ukrainian, what would I be doing? And I said, if I were Ukrainian, I'd probably be dying leading a frontal assault on Russian positions in Bakhmut.
Right.
Because if I'm a Ukrainian, I'm a Ukrainian patriot, and I will defend my country. And they're like, well, no, then you're pro-Nazi. No, I'm not. I'm a Ukrainian on my land.
Yeah.
Attacking and defending. But at some point in time, if I survive that, and after a while, there is a responsibility to sit back and say, why am I fighting? Why am I leading people into combat? What is the cause? Is the cause worthy of the sacrifice that we're being asked to make? And then question the leadership. Why are we doing this? What is the reason? Are we really NATO puppets? Are we doing this for Ukraine? Are we doing this for NATO? Are we doing this for a Ukrainian constitution that believes in fundamental rights? Are we doing this in support of a banderist ideology of white supremacist ultranationalism? And if all the answers come back to things that aren't for Ukraine, then maybe it's time I stand up for Ukraine. And I find like-minded people who say, we're done. It's done. And I take over my sector and I call up the Russians and say, hey, we need a timeout right now because we're tired of fighting you. We're actually going to go fight the son of a bitches in Kiev right now because they're the real enemy. We appreciate if you just stayed put for a while. We'll come back and we'll talk to you. And you get enough guys to do that and you start moving that direction. If I were Ukrainian, I'd probably join those guys.
Yeah.
But right now, there isn't such a movement. It's very difficult to ask an individual to make that movement, especially an individual who grew up, believing in Ukraine, the concept of Ukraine, probably prone to propaganda, etc. But again, at some point in time, reality, how many times do you have to hit the brick wall before you go, damn, that's a brick wall, that hurts.
Yeah.
And I think we're at the point right now where Ukrainians have to take a look at what's happening and say, this is our fault. This is our fault. This is my fault for believing that nonsense. This is happening because I allowed it to happen. And maybe it's time we stop allowing it to happen and take on. So I have trouble feeling sorry for the Ukrainian people right now because I don't know how many times they have to be shown that their government is corrupt, that their government doesn't care about them. I don't know how many U.S. senators have to stand up and say, we're willing to fight to the last Ukrainian before the Ukrainians go, whoa, that's sort of not the way this works.
Yeah.
We don't fight for you. We're supposed to fight for ourselves. So what do we believe in? So, it's going dark and it's getting cold. And I say, good. The darker and the colder it gets, the better. Because I don't feel sorry for the Ukrainian people anymore.
Yeah. Wow. Well, on that uplifting note, we will end the broadcast here. I want to thank you for being on here. Now, you said you're going to be doing it. I wanted to highlight this again. You've got a speaking engagement. Is that open to the public? Can anybody attend that? It
is. It's at 6:45 at the Bethlehem Town Library in Bethlehem, New York, Del Mar, New York. Free. You can arrive.
Yeah.
Selling copies of my book. And I will even be staying afterwards to sign them if you want me to sign them.
Nice.
I think they depreciate 30% if I sign them. They're worth I don't know, I'm joking. But but even if you don't want to buy a book, show up. I'll be talking about disarmament. I'll be talking about Ukraine, and I'll be putting a challenge out there to the peace movement to step up to the plate and start doing something.
Is that tonight, Scott?
No, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. All right. Yeah. So
and then there's one more event I just put out there for people next week on the 15th.
All right.
Sunday at the Russian Samovar restaurant in New York City. You can go to their website, russiansamovar.com, and you'll see under events the speaking event. You buy a ticket, and the ticket gives you a dinner. And it's at the Russian Samovar, which is a world famous restaurant, great food. And it gets you a copy of the book. And we'll have dinner, and I'll get up and I'll talk, I'll take questions. And then afterwards, again, if you want to have your book immediately lose value, I'll sign it for you and all that. But so those are my next two speaking events, one here in Del Mar, and then the other one in New York City.
Excellent. All right, Scott, thanks so much again for being here. I'm sure we'll talk again, and best of luck with those engagements. I hope maybe we get the anti-war movement fired up again.
I'll do my best. I may get booed out of the venue, but we'll see.
All right.